Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay in the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by the Unger Real Estate Group, powered by eXp Realty, proudly serving Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties. Call 407-790-9957 or visit WeSellOrlando.net. Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, along with Brian Murphy. My name is Jeff Sharon. Thank you so much for joining us as we are in April now, Murph, and like the whole spring is like coming to an end, man. Like it's getting hot out again. It's weird. It's WrestleMania time. I mean, this year is like flying by.
I mean, I guess it depends on what side or what area of the country you live in. Because if you're up in your old stomping grounds by Syracuse, spring has not sprung.
Yeah, spring doesn't spring until like June up in Syracuse if you have the right thing. I mean, they're buried under snow. The Yankees had their home opener snowed out. I mean, it's weird, but you know. I'm currently watching a Pittsburgh Pirates game right now, and it's currently got flurries around. Flurries. So I mean, yeah. Well, yeah. I knew there was a reason we all moved down to Florida, so. We actually got a lot on tap for you. We have baseball coming off of 2 out of 3 at Memphis, and then knocking off number 16 Stetson. We'll recap that. Eric Lopez is going to join us a little bit later to recap softball. They are coming off of a loss at, they were. What am I saying? They came off of taking 2 out of 3 at Houston.
Yes.
Huge weekend for them. That's a road series too. That was a pretty big deal, and a 1-0 victory over Florida tonight. So we have a lot to talk about on that end. We'll dive into a little. Okay, this will be interesting. I didn't know this, but apparently Greg Lovelady is a huge wrestling fan, and we'll break down. We'll do a little WrestleMania breakdown a little bit. And we have some other news to talk about with basketball. Taco Fall is officially announcing that he's coming back for next season, and we'll also catch you up on track and field, tennis, and golf. So once again, don't forget to follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com for all the latest UCF news, notes, and whatever has you that strikes our mind that we think you'll find interesting. Lots of good stuff up there. Murph, I know you got a couple good pieces up this week that are really, really must-reads if you're a UCF fan. And even if you're not a UCF fan, because, you should be informed. We make sure that you follow us on Facebook, like us, send us a hello at facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. Hit us up on Twitter, UCF_Banneret, and you can also follow me at Jeff_Sharon. Follow Eric at Eric Lopez Elo. Follow Brian at Spokes_Murphy. And also don't forget to follow Derek Warden _DS Warden for all of his work that he puts out with our photography. So, and of course, subscribe to this podcast at Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. All right, let's jump in, Brian Murphy. So back to conference play after the for UCF baseball after losing 2 out of 3 at home to number 18 East Carolina. You go on the road to face a Memphis team that coming in was last in the American. So you should take care of business. And yes, the Knights did, winning 2 out of 3. Split a doubleheader on Friday, and then won the rubber game 9-3 on Saturday. And this was at Memphis. I mean, it's never easy to play there. And And then they came back Tuesday and knocked off number 16 Stetson at home 4-1. I guess we'll start by breaking down the Memphis series first. 2 out of I know the old saying goes 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? It's that middle one, that 9-0 loss that you look at and you're like, oh man, what happened there? And nothing against Memphis. They're trying to rebuild their program as it is, but is there any disappointment that the Knights weren't able to sweep on the road? I know that sounds ridiculous, but is it true?
There is some disappointment because, like you said, Memphis came in as really a bad team. Let's just call it what it is. They were last in the conference in a ton of offensive categories. They were near the bottom in a lot of offensive categories, a lot of pitching categories. So yeah, I think people certainly expected at least 2 out of 3. I think 2 out of 3 was the bare minimum. They wanted a sweep. They didn't get a sweep. What really happened in that middle game? UCF was kind of doing what they did against ECU and doing against FSU, where they had guys on base, they just couldn't drive them in. I think in that midweek game, in that middle game, or that second game against Memphis, I believe they had back-to-back innings in which they left the bases loaded, and then Memphis struck for like 7 in the sixth inning. And it was just like, here we go again. This team has a bit of an issue with runners in scoring position offense and timely hitting and quote unquote clutch hitting. The Lovelady has said, for a lot of these guys, it's their first time through conference play and has sort of written it off as like, the growth of youth. But it has been a constant issue with this team. So they split the first 2 games. The second game certainly was not pretty. And, not only in that game, you had guys like Cree Finfrock, who has been phenomenal for the start of the season, and then he gives up 7 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Just kind of all falls apart. So, and then in the third game of the series, I had people, it was 3-3 in the 9th inning. And I had people in my Twitter feed blowing me up saying that if UCF Baseball loses this game, this season is over. And people were agreeing with that statement, and there was a lot of people who actually said this.
The season's over at 20-10, right?
Absolutely, and that we're still 2 months away from conference tournament and in postseason, whatever. But this is like Jeffrey, as a diehard
your reaction
baseball
says
fan,
it all right there.
Jeffrey, I couldn't roll my eyes hard enough into the back of my skull because that's not how baseball works. Baseball does not work in like short time frame narratives. It's a long marathon season. And so luckily, fortunately, to salvage their season, UCF scored 6 runs in the top of the 9th inning against Memphis and won the series, and thus will continue to play baseball like they did on Tuesday against Stetson.
To salvage the season. Well, I think the other part, too, is go back to the first game. That game was tied at 1 heading into the top of the 8th. And then I scored 1 in the 8th and then 5 in the 9th to take the 7-1 win. Mm-hmm. 6 runs in the 9th, hey, you whack around the Memphis bullpen, that's fine. But the victory over number 16 Stetson, 4-1 at home. Finfrock got the win. Tucker got the save. And, you say what you want about Stetson and how much we've seen them, over the years and, restarting the series after the Pete Dunne / Terry Rooney fiasco. But that's a good baseball team. And for UCF to come back and take care of business at home against a team that's, that is at least familiar with them, that has their own aspirations and comes in hungry. Stetson circles this game on their calendar too. And their players are on scholarship also, as they like to say. Yeah. And to dispatch them 4-1 with the pitching that we saw in the later innings, I think you have to be very encouraged if you're Greg Lovelady at this point.
Yeah, and this is a Stetson team, and also the same pitcher, Joey Gonzalez. So Joey Gonzalez for Stetson, the same guy who shut this offense down back early part of the season, back in February. He was up into land. Stetson wins 1-0. And Joey Gonzalez for Stetson pitches 7 innings of shutout ball with four hits and 7 Ks. It was great. So he comes back to Orlando to pitch against UCF and does well again. But the big blow is a 3-run home run by Griffin Bernardo, which was really a no-doubter shot to left. Nice to see him get a big hit. They're still waiting for him to sort of grow into his power potential. But I think also importantly to that game is you had guys like Cree Finfrock, who I said, did not pitch well at Memphis. Jordan Spicer, who's been, I would say, consistently below average for a while. Those guys pitched well. And
consistently inconsistent, I think, is probably the word that, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. And Thad Ward struck out. I think he struck out six batters in 2 innings. He did give up a couple base runners, but still, the pitching was really spot on. Bryce Tucker came in, got a save with 2 outs. So it really was an overall very nice game, a good win. Stetson 16th in one poll. There are a lot of college baseball polls. It doesn't mean they're the 16th best team in the nation, but what they are really is a very good team that has a tremendous pitching staff. Like their pitching staff, like front to back, is like really good.
Right.
So no, it's definitely a good win. And so now that you can say after those bumps in the road against ECU and against FSU, UCF has won 3 out of 4, and they'll see what they can do this weekend up in UConn.
Right. So it's a perfect segue into traveling up north where it's going to be cold, up to Storms.
Yes.
For the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. UCF right now 3-3, tied for 4th in the conference. ECU, USF, and Houston are all 4-2. The Knights are the best team out of the 3 that are in 500. That are at 500 in the league. They're in a 3-way tie with Cincinnati and Tulane, but Cincinnati is 12-14, Tulane 12-18 overall. Interestingly enough, Wichita State 19-6 overall, but off to a 1-2 start in the league. To paraphrase Tony Kornheiser again right now, like, where are we now? Is this, UConn comes in at 15-9, like we said, off to a sub 500 start in the league. This is a home series for them, and they're looking to get back on track. So, what is the outlook heading into this series with UConn this weekend?
Well, I think one thing the headline of this series is actually going to be what happens with the weather here. And I know that's not really entertaining to a lot of baseball people, but that's going to dictate a lot of this series because it sounds like at least for Friday night, maybe also Saturday, there's going to be snow. We could have UCF playing in the snow, or a possible doubleheader on Saturday. That really is a big deal.
Well, the forecast right now, Friday calls for snow and rain. And what time is that game starting? That's a 3 p.m. start. Well, there's about an 18% chance of precipitation at that point. Saturday's going to be flat out cold. High of 37, low of 27. Snow flurries throughout the day until the evening. And that game is scheduled for 1 o'clock. There's a 50% chance of snow at game time. And then Sunday, sunny, no rain or snow in the forecast, high 41, low 25. So there's a possibility that they might only get 2 games in here. I mean, I don't want to sound alarmist, but that could really throw a wrench into the conference schedule when it comes down to the end of the year, no?
Absolutely. I mean, this is probably going to be a pretty bunched up conference at the top. This is probably going to be like last year where 15 wins, certainly 16 might win you this conference. And I think there's a lot of teams that could get to that sort of somewhere between 14, 16 wins this season. So yeah, I mean, any game missed could definitely be critical. Yeah. But we will see what happens. Weather is fickle. It changes on a whim. I would say, but the Connecticut had games supposed to be yesterday against Fairfield and then today against Quinnipiac. Both those games were canceled due to weather. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, as is always the case with that weather. And then you come home, you got, you're not really coming home. I mean, after you go home, you get to take a bus trip down to Coral Gables for Wednesday at Miami, 6 p.m. We'll be keeping an eye on that one because normally we record on Wednesday nights. So hopefully that one will be over by the time that we record our podcast for next week. So you can listen to the games on UCF Nights UCF.com. At least 2 of the 3 UConn games, they have listen links up for Saturday and Sunday. So keep an eye out for that. All right. Sticking sort of with baseball. All right. Now I'm going to call Lopez in, and we're going to have a talk here about this next thing because I hear something that I did not know about UCF baseball. So we're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to come back. Eric Lopez is going to join us. We're going to talk a little more baseball, a little softball, wrap things up. Hang tight. We'll be right back. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by the Unger Real Estate Group, powered by eXp Realty. Sam Unger and his team proudly serve Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties, specializing in buying, selling, and new construction. Sam is a proud UCF graduate, class of 2006, and he's such a dedicated Knight fan that right now, if you work with him as your realtor, he will donate a portion of his commission to the UCF Football Excellence Fund in your name. So if you're ready to buy a new home or sell your current home, upgrade or downsize, Sam and his team have you covered so you can find the right home at the right price in the right location. So give them a call right now at 407-790-9957. Again, that's 407-790-9957. Or visit on the web at WeSellOrlando.net. Again, that's WeSellOrlando.net. You can also reach them on Facebook at facebook.com/WeSellOrlando. Get in touch with the Unger Real Estate Group today and make finding your dream home a reality.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Andrew Fegley.
And I'm Trey Strelko. Where are we? This isn't our usual spot.
It looks like we've landed in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of those guys.
You know, Nightline has UCF sports covered.
Week in and week out, we bring you interviews with newsmakers and in-depth analysis of UCF sports.
Subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to subscribe to Nightline on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter at UCF_Nightline.
Trace, can we go back to the 1148 studios now and start working on our next all-new Nightline?
How do we get out of here? Go Knights!
Charge on.
Now back to you guys in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff, Sharon, Brian Murphy, and Eric Lopez is joining us now, and he just couldn't wait to call in because what a banner night for UCF softball tonight as they knock off number 4 Florida 1-0 at the UCF softball complex. Of course, the Knights are coming off with winning 2 out of 3 at Houston, which is hard enough to do in conference, but knocking off Florida, a team that came in 32-4, and doing them behind a one-hitter behind Aaliyah White that's quite the evening for Eric Lopez to brag about, as he should. How about Cassidy Brewer, 3 for 3 tonight, including the lone RBI single, which was all UCF needed. Complete game one-hitter, like we said, for Aaliyah White, and Lopez joins us now. You were there. It was a packed house, wasn't it, Eric?
It was amazing. It's fitting on WrestleMania week. I would describe the game as woo in honor of the Flair family, Ric Flair, and of course Charlotte Flair, the women's current title holder. It was amazing, boys. I've called softball games now at UCF since 2007, and games like this one is the reason why I do it. It was amazing. If you were a casual fan, which there are a lot of casual fans that were in attendance tonight, it was a high-level game. Florida's a team that was literally a game or two away from winning the national title. If a ball swings a certain way, they might be national champions right now. They're still a national title contender. You got to play at a high level. And I wondered, with a team that only has 2 seniors, only has 3 players that played against Florida in the 2016 regional, still on the roster, a ton of freshmen and sophomores, how would they react to the atmosphere, to a sold-out crowd, a record-breaking crowd of 1,236? Would it get to them? And no, it didn't. And it starts in the circle with Aaliyah White, who threw her signature game nationally announced herself as one of the best pitchers in the country. She was unbelievable. To put it in perspective, Mackenzie Otis 6 years ago threw a 2-hitter against Florida. Aaliyah White today, one hitter. No UCF pitcher has given up fewer hits against a Florida team that's ranked 4th in the country, hitting among the top offensive teams in the country. Held them to one hit. One hit, kept them off balance, only had the one strikeout, but she was hitting their zones. Florida had no answers for their off-speed pitch. And then Cassidy Brewer, 3 hits, the most hits that any UCF players had against Florida, tying Stephanie Best, who you got to cover, Jeff, in the 05 regional. She had 3 hits in their first ever NCAA tournament win against Florida. Cassidy matched that 6 years ago when UCF the last time beat Florida. Her older sister, Danielle, started at first base, and she had a one-hit. Cassidy was in attendance in that game, and here she is 6 years ago, really throwing a signature legendary game for Cassidy. One of the best performances that her career, 3 hits, and she caught a one-hitter. Unbelievable performance by this group. Very poised, and a huge win for confidence, a huge win for the resume. Just a remarkable night, a well-played game, and it was just an amazing night.
What can you say about Cassidy Brewer? Like you said, the 3-for-3 night on a stage like this. And I guess let's talk about that stage for a second. What does this mean for UCF in the national picture? And what does this mean for, like you said, these young players? We talk all the time about how young players need something to show them sometimes the confidence that they need, to show them what they're capable of. So what does a win like this do for UCF softball for the remainder of the season?
It gives them the utmost confidence that they could beat anybody, number one, that they're capable of doing it. And it's a win on the resume, first of all. You look at the NCAA, it's early. The UCF's RPI this week was 58. The conference is ranked 4th in the country as far as the best conference according to the RPI. So this is a strong league. But this is a win that's a signature win that helps you in the resume get into the NCAA tournament if you don't win the automatic bid. I think back, and again, I repeat this again, 6 years ago when UCF beat Florida, that in a lot of ways got them into the NCAA tournament because of that win. So from a resume standpoint, that's huge. I think from a confidence standpoint, it's huge. But this is a coming out party for Aaliyah White. You and I have talked, Jeff, for 2 years since her arrival. And I would argue, gentlemen, and I don't know how you feel about this. I'll open it up to you, Murph, as well. I think the 2 most scrutinized positions on campus probably is the UCF quarterback. I'm talking about players, not talking coaches. Mm-hmm. I think it's the UCF quarterback and the UCF softball pitcher. In a lot of ways, the UCF softball pitcher, because of the legacy that's been at UCF, going back to Dottie Cup, which you covered, Jeff, and Lindsay Enders, Allison Kime, who had a Hall of Fame-type career, even recently with the All-Americans, Mackenzie Audis and Shelby Turnier. There's a lot of scrutiny. There's a lot of people focus on the pitcher in softball. And
a lot of pressure.
Aaliyah's been under the microscope. A lot of pressure with that. And she knows that. She was being recruited. She watched Shelby. She watched Mackenzie. And she's told me, she envisioned being them and pitching a game like tonight against Florida. And it was interesting, Jeff, because obviously I traveled with them to Houston this past weekend when they won 2 out of 3, which, by the way, that's a big series when Houston beat Texas on Tuesday night. So tell you how good they are. So, and she immediately after the series was done, and we're on the way to the airport in Houston, she was already focusing and watching Florida tape. She wanted this game. She's wanted this game for a while. She didn't like how things went last year in Gainesville, and it was interesting. She even shared, and I think you're going to play this in this episode. She mentioned in the postgame that, when they were warming up and doing, their, I think, training and stuff earlier in the day, she guaranteed this win. She felt confident. She wanted the Gators, and she got them, and she backed it up with an incredible performance. I think today this is the coming out party. There was questions as Aaliyah number 1, and partly because she's a different pitcher than a Mackenzie or Shelby or Allison who used to pound 9, 10, 11, 12 strikeouts a game. That's not Aaliyah's game. But what is her game is she thinks the game, keeps the ball down, and she was masterful. And I think today she announced herself as one of the best pitchers in the country, and she's backed it up this year. She's right now 2nd in the country in wins. She's in the top 10 in the country in shutouts. This was her 7th shutout. I think now people will take notice that Aaliyah White's the real deal.
All right, we have some sound that you got earlier. Here, we're going to lead off with Aaliyah White, followed by Cassidy Brewer, and then we're going to wrap up with Coach Gillespie.
Well, I knew, considering last year was a rough go-round, I knew that I had to come back ready, and I was just like, I had the feeling this morning. I woke up, I said, we're winning this game, and I walked into the training room today, and I let everyone know we're winning and to get their minds right.
We knew they were going to be a really tough competition. We knew we were going to have to throw strikes and go right at them. We couldn't be afraid of the name on the chest because that's what a lot of people do. So we knew that we had the means to beat them, and we knew we had the heart to beat them, and we knew that we wanted to beat them. So I think we came out this year more determined because last year was kind of ugly. So we came out more determined and to really let them know that we're in it.
Yeah, and we did a lot of video. We watched a lot of games. We looked a little bit of what we did last year, and Aaliyah didn't throw bad against them last year. We just had a lot of mistakes behind her. So with our defense being able to kind of settle in and play tough behind her, that was huge. But being able to know how we were going to throw them, know what we were going to do against each of the batters. We watched, Florida International had a good win against them. Jackson had a close game, 2-1 ball game against them. So we just wanted to see how they were going after them and kind of see how we needed to pitch them. And we knew Leah was very similar to what FIU has as a pitcher. We knew that she was going to be able to throw similar games. So, and she did that. I mean, she came out and she just had one heck of a game with, like I said, one hit and a shutout. That's incredible.
All right, so once again, that was Aaliyah White, Cassidy Brewer, and head coach Renee Lourdes-Gillespie of UCF Softball coming off their victory over Florida. All right, Lopez, so I guess the question as always is, where are we now? So UCF is 5-1 in the conference, tied with USF at the top. They now head up to Stores, just like the baseball team. But Murph and I were looking at the forecast, and it's not looking very favorable coming up. There's going to be, they're expecting some rain, some sleet, some snow, possibly on Saturday. We know how the weather up north can play tricks with the schedule. How is UCF softball? How is Coach Gillespie going to approach this? And what is the best hope for UCF coming in? Because this UConn team, these are games that you kind of look on the calendar, you're like, okay, we should take care of business. They're 0-6 in the conference and 13-23 overall, worst overall record in the Americans. So what's the story for UCF softball heading into this 3-game set?
Well, Murph, you remember how Jeff used to be panicking over every UCF football game, was concerned about a trap and worried about letdowns? Well, I'm wearing this. I'm wearing the hat, the Jeff Sharon hat for this one. I am petrified.
He's wearing the black hat.
Series because
but Elo, see, the difference is you actually have a right to be panicked.
Listen, man.
Right?
I was around for the MAC days. I have reason to be panicked.
Jeff's panic is completely irrational.
Wow, there you go, Jeffrey. You got called out on that. Look, I'm very worried about it. This is a trap. This is an ultimate trap series because now you're just coming off this emotional win against Florida, and now you're going into Stores, Connecticut. You've described the weather. It's in the 40s. Doesn't look like they're going to play on Friday. I mean, I'm going to defer to you. You are the expert. You both are the expert meteorologist on this. What have you, at the time of this recording, what have you both found out? Because the last I heard is that it's in the 40s. They may or may not be able to play Friday. They might play a doubleheader Saturday. The thing that worries me, this is a trap game now. It's a letdown emotionally. And now we're going to find out if this team is mature enough to get back and take care of UConn. You cannot have a letdown and lose this series. And then the big question is, how many games do they get in? Because 2 years ago when I went on this trip, I got to see snow for the first time. Unfortunately, that meant that we were snowed out and also got rained out. We only got one game in, and as it turns out, that cost UCF a chance for a three-peat in the regular season title. They beat USF 2 out of 3 in the regular season, but USF won the conference on percentage points because, in part, UCF did not get those 2 games in. So there's a lot of concern from a weather standpoint. Plus, you got a young group. I don't know how many of these Pete girls have ever seen snow or played in 30 to 40-degree weather, but that's going to be a challenge against the UConn team that I know doesn't look good on the record-wise, but they went to College Station and beat Texas A&M, so they're more than capable of winning games. So I'm definitely very petrified of this weekend and seeing how, with a quick turnaround, how they bounce back. But I'll defer to you both in the meteorology department. What are the chances we're going to get games in? I think that's the question I have.
Well, the Black and Gold Banneret Weather Eye team has reported in, and Friday does not look good. High 50, low 34. Snow and rain in the forecast. Game time is scheduled for, I'm pulling up the schedule right now. Game time is scheduled for 4 p.m. on Friday. At about that time, they're expecting about a 20% chance of snow at that point and increasing as the evening goes on. Saturday looks even worse. High 37, low 27. Snow throughout the morning and into the afternoon. Game time is scheduled for 2 p.m. They're expecting snow at about that time, about a 40% chance by about that time. Sunday, it should shape up. No precipitation in the forecast of note. High 41, low 25, cold and windy. So, yeah, I mean it's not looking particularly good. So, bring your parkas and your ski jackets if you're heading up to Connecticut to follow UCF softball and UCF baseball, because they're both heading up there this weekend.
Something to keep in mind, by the way, having been up there 2 years ago, I've seen both stadiums. Baseball can take more punishment than softball. So don't be surprised if maybe baseball gets more games in than softball, because their field is more can handle some of this weather, where softball cannot. There are places that, I mean, to put it kindly, is, you know.
Yeah, but if there's snowing, they're not going to play. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter who.
I agree. And look, I've addressed it, and this is the thing I don't get with the league. And I know coaches have talked about this, and this is not surprising. You can speak to this, Jeff. You lived in the Northeast. This is not shocking weather in Connecticut in April, right? It's not like this is like came out of nowhere. I don't understand why they don't backload the schedule, or UConn gets more of the home games the second half of conference play instead of what they do here and front load it. UConn, this is the second of 3 straight weekends that UConn's hosting a series. I expect times to be adjusted. I wouldn't be surprised if they played earlier in the day, maybe in the morning. I think the schedule is going to be hectic, and it's going to be a challenge, I think, for both baseball and softball to kind of stay focused and play in these conditions. Baseball, I'm sure you guys talked about. Connecticut's good in baseball, so that could be a challenge. And then softball, again, the letdown from Florida concerns me a lot. This is a big weekend. You got Houston playing South Florida. You got Tulsa and Wichita State playing each other. So if UCF has an opportunity here to maybe really make up ground on everybody here playing UConn, but easier said than done. And that's, we'll see what happens, what Mother Nature has in store.
Well, I'm not surprised by snow in April in the Northeast. I'm surprised about snow that sticks. That's a little more unusual, not quite as unusual up in New England, but hey, well, at least maybe everyone will be inside to at least be able to catch WrestleMania, which brings me to the other point that I made before the break, which was, all right, so you guys hung out with Greg Lovelady a little bit, for a little pregame, a little just discussion before the Stetson game, and I did not know that Greg Lovelady is a big wrestling fan, but apparently he is, and okay, what are we? All right, so this is going to be our little foray into pro wrestling. Now, I don't know who else is a big pro wrestling fan out there at UCF that we know of, but Lovelady's a pretty big fan. So he had some thoughts on WrestleMania?
He was there, as was I, and as was Eric. He was there last year when WrestleMania was here at Orlando at Camping World. And he is, and I mean, Eric and I, like, it was a blast. It was one of the funniest interviews I've done, really ever. I mean, it was supposed to be like 15 minutes with Coach Lovelady about wrestling. It turned into like 45 minutes of
That's amazing.
Just talking about, like, story angles and guys you like and guys you don't like and stories and. But it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. He is a real fan. He's Greg Lovelady said he started watching what was then WWF at the age of 6.
And he goes way back.
Really,
that's the peak of Hulkamania, right?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly was big with Hulk. His favorite growing up was the Rock and Roll Express, and he would dress up. And
there have to be photos of this.
I do not
if the
know.
Lovelady family is listening, we demand photos of this immediately.
I will drop this. I will drop this nugget in there. So I'll have a story on this up on the site this weekend before WrestleMania on Sunday. Maybe I'll have the story up there on Sunday. But anyway, every Sunday home game that Lovelady manages here at UCF, since he's been here since the start of last season, every Sunday home game, he comes to the park wearing a wrestling T-shirt, whether it be like a Shawn Michaels or Mick Foley Mankind. He wears wrestling gear as he arrives and then gets into his, baseball gear after that, after he gets into the premises. But just so you know, every Sunday home game you're out, Greg Lovelady is arriving in a WWE T-shirt.
Oh, this is too good. This is just too.
Oh, yeah. Murph, don't you feel now the rest of the year in the Sunday games, you're going to get there early just to see which one he's wearing, right?
I'm sure you will, Eric.
If I can, if I don't have softball, if I don't have conflicts, yeah, I would like to. Let me just say this. You both have had the privilege to talk to him, I believe in his office, right, Jeff? You've done 2 interviews with him in his office previewing the season. Murph, you've interviewed him many a time. I've talked to Greg in the past, in passing. Obviously, with my softball commitments, a lot of times we conflict, so I don't go to baseball as much as I would like. But I've talked to him off the field and stuff like that. I've always liked him. But this was the first time I had a chance to sit down and talk to him. And let me just say this, Murph, and I'll ask you this. Didn't you I felt like talking to him, that's what, to me, if I had to make the perfect baseball coach, a perfect college baseball coach, I feel like Greg Lovelady's personality is the perfect fit. He's very laid back, easygoing, has a passion for the game, but he's funny. To me, if I was a player, I would go, and he's easy to play with, just very relaxed, very confident, smart. I just think he's just a perfect baseball guy. And I say this a million times, but I think Danny White hit a home run here. This guy is amazing. Really, and honestly, ahead of schedule. I don't think people, when he got here, I never thought he would win a conference title in his first year. But what a joy to be just an easygoing guy. And I think the players feed off of that. I think that's why he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He's the perfect personality for that, but he's a very, very easy guy. He's a people's guy. He's very approachable, and I had a blast. It was one of the most, let me see. I've interviewed a million coaches at UCF, a million coaches in pro sports and college sports. Murph, and obviously you're a part of this. It's one of my favorite sit-down interviews that I've been a part of in my entire life. He was just, you said it went like 30, 40 minutes, but it didn't feel that way, did it, Murph? I felt like it just went by. It just went by quick.
This was a manager who was preparing for a game later that day.
against the 16th ranked team in the country, the Stetson Hatters, by the way. Pretty good thing.
I don't know how much time of his day he wanted to spend talking about wrestling, but really it seemed like he could have sat there forever. And he said at the very end, like, I could talk about this forever. And it just flowed for 40 minutes. I did not think this would go past 10-15. And we just talked for 40 minutes about so many things. We got into maybe Greg Lovelady, what would his wrestling persona be? Or, what would his uniform look like? It just, it's great. It really was a fun, lively, easy interview. And so, I'll have a story up on that this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking.
We get to the bottom, by the way, of why the Stone Cold theme music is the music they play. Why, when he comes out to talk to the pitchers, it's not one that he was his choice either, which you'll share, I'm sure, in the story.
Yeah, we get to the bottom of why it's his walkout music when he comes out to the field to make pitching changes, and why he hates it.
Correct.
Great.
Why he hates it. And by the way, I will give you this little tease. He was that was his walk-up song when he played at Miami. So we talked about that as well. It was just a delight. And he talked about going back and who was his favorite wrestler. I know Murph is disappointed that one of the things we find out is that Greg Lovelady's actually a Roman Reigns fan, and he will be rooting for Roman Reigns to beat Brock Lesnar.
Whatever.
That bummed Murph out. That bummed him out. But the cool story, by the way, which Murph will write about on Black Gold Banneret, I strongly recommend when it comes out, is he had never been to WrestleMania. And last year UCF was playing a home series, and they had won that game on Sunday. But he was like, hey, this is an opportunity. WrestleMania was at the stadium, and Brian Fritz, who you know, Jeff, obviously is a longtime producer for the UCF broadcast and football and basketball, covers wrestling. He'll be at Dorlings. He covers it for Between the Ropes and stuff. He helped them get tickets to WrestleMania last year, and that was his first experience, and he was blown away by it. So it was an awesome talk. It was an awesome talk to talk about wrestling and all the people that he knows and is intrigued by it. Murph, I think you agree. He's just like us. We're all perplexed on what the heck's going on with the Undertaker at this WrestleMania. I know he was bummed out that he didn't show up this past week. So, but it was fun. He was a fun guy, and obviously they're doing a '90s wrestling theme on the Friday night game against Cincinnati, right, Murph? The 13th is
the
13th night. We also talked about that.
90s wrestling night on the 13th against Cincinnati. Oh, there might be a special guest. Maybe they're trying, but there's things happening. I mean, it's great. It's great. It's a lot of fun. And the guy,
that's what I want to know.
When he was like, he's telling stories about like when he would see a guy like in the airport, like when he was in college with Miami, or when he'd see a guy, you know, when WWE would come into town when he was at Wright State. And I mean, he would geek out. This is a fanboy. I mean, that's not a derogatory term. Like him talking about him seeing these wrestlers and his reactions to seeing them is like what a boy would feel as if he saw Mickey Mantle back in the 50s. That's sort of the same.
I got to know, because I know for a fact that Greg Lovelady isn't the only UCF figure that we know of who's probably a huge wrestling fan. So, all right, so I'll make you guys this promise. It's too late this year, but next year, okay, for our pre-WrestleMania show, we've got to have Lovelady on. And like we'll do a special show, Lovelady and whoever else we can find out who's also wrestling. And coaches, SIDs, if you guys listen to this, let us know. Like we'll blow it out. It'll be fun. Now I'm not a big pro wrestling fan, but I know Murph, you're a fan. Eric, you're insane. And so
are you kidding me, man? I'm fired up. Listen, I'm not against him. I'm not against maybe having them on in the fall, during SummerSlam, maybe Survivor Series during fall ball. I mean, we could do, if there's some WWE shows coming in Orlando. I mean, I could see some potential here. By the way, I've decided. I don't think Murph will do this, but so the '90s night is the 13th, Friday, against Cincinnati. Softball is playing Memphis at 5:30 that night. Baseball's at 6:30. So I'm going to I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to call the Memphis softball game, and I'm going to head over to baseball, and I think I'm going to wear my Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt that night at baseball.
God. Just don't wear your credential with it, please.
Yeah.
What do you think, Murph? Thumbs up, thumbs down, Murph?
No, I'm all about it. Like, if you want to go there in if you want to go there in the bedazzled robe, like a Ric Flair, I would do that too. I don't know of a wrestler who wore a Stetson fedora, but that's what I'll be wearing per usual. It'll be just like a regular night for me, really. But I'm looking forward to the 13th. It should be fun.
I got to wear.
So you approve of me going with it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if
I'm going to that game, I got to wear a T-shirt that my buddy Dr. Ron Thomas gave me. He's the Nighthawk from Florida, from FCW, and I worked with him at my job, and he sent me a. He sent me some T-shirts. He sent me a coffee mug. He's got all kinds of stuff. I got to actually have that stuff up there. Gosh, this is too good. All right. So now we know that if you run into Greg Lovelady at Publix, you need to talk with him about WrestleMania. So, all right. Let's restore order here for a second.
You didn't want to break down the card? I mean, you didn't want to break. I mean, Ronda Rousey is going to be in the main event. By the way, serious note, what a week for baseball, softball. By the way, I mean, I'm sure you guys talked about it. Big win against Stetson. Softball beating Florida, both helping resumes for postseason. I mean, it's exciting time, and I hope the fans do come out, support both teams here, move down the stretch here, because we're in both in great leagues. The baseball is ranked 5th in the RPI's best league. Softball is 4th. I mean, I think there's some great product going on here, and I hope that fans, and I was a great, come out for both and find a way to support both fans in all seriousness. I think we're in good hands at both programs right now and where they're headed.
Agreed. Heck of a time for them to head up to Storrs, Connecticut to get snowed out for 3 games. But anyway, so all right, a couple of things I want to get out there before we wrap up. Some quick news to pass along. Taco Fall is officially coming back. He said that on Wednesday he will not declare for the NFL draft. Yeah, right. NBA draft. And quote from Taco, according to the release, it left a feeling of unfinished business, he said of last year. This is not the way I want to leave this school. I came here to do something big. I feel like before I leave here, I got to leave my mark. That's what really weighed into my decision to stay. So Taco Fall will be back for one more season at least with UCF. What else do we have here? You'll appreciate this, Murph. 4 former UCF Knights made their debuts in the 2018 Major League Baseball season this week. Drew Butera, once again catching for the Kansas City Royals, started all 3 games on opening weekend. 2 for 4 at the plate with a double on opening day was Drew.
His first opening day start of his career.
That's right.
It came in bad circumstances because the starter, Sal Perez, hurt his knee. But for Drew, now entering his 9th year in the majors, first career start, I mean, I'm sure he had some pride.
What a career he's carved out for himself in the majors.
It's really amazing. It's quite amazing.
And for
we got to get Drew. We got to get Drew on. We got to get him on in the summer. I had a chance to talk to him 10 years ago when he was with the Twins. He's a great guy. I've enjoyed his company, so I'm happy for that he's getting the opportunities.
I got to put him down there as a summer session, maybe catch him on an off day or something. But his teammate at Kansas City, not a UCF teammate, but Eric Skoglund was named to the starting rotation also for the Kansas City Royals. But they got a weather postponement against the Chicago White Sox. So he skipped his start. He's going to start sometime a little bit later on this week. Ben Lively, however, made his debut on Tuesday. 5 strikeouts in 5 2/3 innings for Philadelphia. And Dan Winkler, 2 appearances out of the bullpen for the Atlanta Braves as well. So 4 nights to catch up on there. Keep an eye on your.
By the way, one other UCF baseball note. So the Florida Fire Frogs are a minor league baseball team. I think they're like an affiliate. They're an affiliate of the Atlanta Braves. Mm-hmm. So they're going to start their 2nd season. They play at Osceola Stadium. They're going to start this weekend playing. You know who their pitching coach is this year in his first year?
I should know this.
Mike Maroth.
Mike Maroth.
Maroth, former UCF great, is in town now. He's a pitching coach for the Florida Fire Frogs in the minor league. I knew that because I was listening to Jerry O'Neill. I was listening to him on the finish line. They had the manager on, Luis Salazar, former Major League Baseball player. I think he's the manager for the Fire Frogs. So I was listening to them on the way to the softball game, and they talked about Mike Maroth, and he's on the staff this year for the first year as a pitching coach for the Fire Frogs. So pretty cool. I mean, Mike Maroth's one of the greats. He had a great Major League Baseball career. Now he's kind of in our neck of the woods, and it's kind of cool. Jason Arnold, in my opinion, maybe he's arguably the best UCF pitcher of all time. He lives in town. In fact, he was at the Chicago State game recently, sitting by first base. So a lot of the Knights baseball alums, guys, kind of right around town. And I ran into Ryan Meyer, who was at the softball game tonight. He was the former pitcher at UCF. He's married to Maddie Schroeder, who's the former outfielder for softball. And we talked for a length, and he's been out. He was out there for the East U series, and they're all excited for Greg. Greg Lovelady's done one thing I've noticed. He's brought back a lot of these alumni kind of back in the fold on the baseball side, and I've gotten a sense of that just talking to various people. So it's been cool to see a lot of those guys on. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Mike Maroth, now pitching coach at the Florida Fire Frogs. So, you could add that one to the list, Jeffrey, maybe as a kind of we got to get type of deal there with the Fire Frogs. I could see Murph going to some Fire Frogs baseball games once UCF season's done.
I mean, it's baseball, so of course I would.
Well, don't forget also Chad Mottola, who played for UCF, was an excellent player at UCF. He is now a hitting coach for the Tampa Bay Rays. And
I feel real bad for him right now. He has no hitters to play with. He has no hitters right now.
Yeah, Chad's got his work cut out for him this year. But at least, if you head down to the Rays, you see Chad out there, don't forget to say hey. Just a couple of quick things I also wanted to, pass along here. Men's tennis, right now at 9-7, coming off a loss at Oklahoma State after they defeated Princeton 6-1. They face Tulsa at Tulsa on Friday and Memphis at Memphis on Sunday. Before next Sunday, they finish up the regular season against USF. Women's tennis continues to roll, 16-2. They've won 10 matches in a row, and they will face Rice Friday. They actually beat USF on Wednesday 4-1 in Tampa. That was a first road match for them in a while. They got Rice coming up next. They've got Tulsa on Friday the 13th, Wichita State Sunday the 15th, and then it's American Athletic Conference Championship time. So Brian Kaneko, women's
have not lost a match, by the way. They have not lost a match since Brian Kaneko came on Black and Gold Banneret. That's all
right.
I'm saying.
We're just making this
point. I just want to throw that out there.
So that everyone is aware of what's going on. All right, so let's wrap up real quick here. Eric, first, what do you have coming up this week?
Well, I contributed to Brian's story that's coming out. I'm looking forward to this weekend where he talks with Greg Lovelady, writes about him and his going to WrestleMania and his being a fan of wrestling and the backstage and how he ended up going to WrestleMania and stuff like that. So I contributed in that. So I'm looking forward to that, actually. Murph's going to knock it out. Looking forward to that. And I know Coach Lovelady will be hoping to have internet access to watch Mania from the flight back. We'll see how that goes. But outside of that, I've got some writing going on fastpitchnews.com, and actually within the next week in fastpitchnews.com, I'm going to do a feature on Angel Shamblin and Allison Kime 10-year anniversary. Of course, they had the great individual rivalry, so I'm going to do a feature on both of them next. That's going to come out next week, where I ask them both questions and they interview each other. And then I just get ready to broadcast. My next broadcast will be UCF and UNF in Jacksonville next Wednesday, April 11th. 5 o'clock game. I'll get to see former Knight Shelby Turner as the pitching coach there, so I'll be up there, and so that's kind of what's on the horizon. And then between all that, I'll be in a fetal position following the UConn series while they get snow.
Get your jackets out. What about you, Murph? What do you got?
Well, I don't think we've said it enough, but there's something about Coach Lovelady in WrestleMania that'll be on the site this week. And then I damn sure still want to get my story on A.J. Davis still out there. It's actually still relevant because A.J. Davis is still playing basketball coming up. Actually, next week is the start of the Portsmouth Invitational, which he'll be participating in.
He was in that 3-on-3U tournament, too, wasn't he, just recently?
He was in the 3-on-3U, so I watched that. It's sort of like half-court street ball, like first to 21 wins, and it's fun. It's loose. No one really cares about defense. I will say it. So the AAC team, which had B.J. Tyson from East Carolina, Shaq Morris, Wichita State, Connor Frankamp from Wichita State, and A.J. Davis, they got eliminated in the first round. They didn't make it out of the first round.
How did that team get eliminated in the first round?
It was weird. Like you had like the MEAC team beating like the ACC team, and you had. It's
straight talent. That's a talented team. I mean,
I know.
Put me and those four guys out there on the floor. That's a 30-win team.
Well, even if it's only 3-on-3, still it's a good team. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's bad luck. But I would say that AJ did put down a highlight dunk that's been circulated on Twitter, so it was pretty good. I mean, other than that, I don't know what you could take from it, but AJ will continue to play this upcoming week, or next week, I should say, at the Portsmouth Invitational. So I do want to have that story out, even though it's getting a little aged. And then we'll see what else. I'm still going out to football practices for spring ball. I know you're all hyped about that, Jeffrey. So we'll see what I've got.
Yeah, you know how I feel about spring football. Man.
You have a bold prediction, Murph? You have a bold prediction for Mania here in honor of Greg? I mean, do you have a bold prediction here? I know Greg thinks Roman. I mean, give me a bold prediction here. Ronda Rousey goes over, right? She wins, right?
Yeah,
with Kurt Angle.
She has to go over, right?
they definitely put her over. Like, they can't, like, wouldn't that be the worst thing ever? Like, Triple H, like, says, like, no, I can't lose to the Ronda Rousey team. Like, that would be awful.
Which is probably why that's going to happen.
That would be brutal. I'm interested to see, like, two things. Like, is the Undertaker thing, like, really not happening? I guess it's not, but it is. Like, if it is happening, shouldn't they promote it? Like, that'd be a great way to promote your actual crown jewel, pay-per-view. So I don't know what's happening there. And then ELO, the Braun Strowman 2-on-1 tag team match. Do you care who his tag team partner is going to be? I kind of do.
No, because he's going to win. You do? I've heard rumors. It might be Rey Mysterio. Maybe it's Greg. Can we get Coach Lovelady? Like, they finished the game in time. Maybe could he be the mystery tag team partner? Oh,
yeah.
That would be a black and gold breaking story.
The game gets snowed out on Sunday early for no reason at all, and then he flies down to New Orleans and then suits up.
Yeah. The only problem is he's very He's a very anti-part-time wrestlers, guys. So he may not agree to that.
So he's not. It's true. He would be going against his own morals. Jeffrey, how much do you enjoy this conversation?
I'm just trying to look how I'm trying to figure out how I can segue into the conclusion of this conversation, this podcast. I don't know how you segue. So. Just as soon as WrestleMania will be over, we need to bring this podcast to an end. That was a really poor segue. Anyway, all right, let's get out of here. Eric, thanks for calling in, man.
Hey, guys, always a pleasure. Great night to be a night, as they say. Awesome to always talk to you, boys.
And Brian Murphy, thank you once again, too, brother.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
All right, this has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Don't forget to hit us up at blackandgoldbanneret.com. Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret and UCF_Banneret on Twitter. I'm at Jeff_Sharon. Brian's at Spokes_Murphy. Eric's at Eric Lopez Elo. Don't forget to tell your friends. Download this podcast on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and tune in. Thanks, as always, to the Unger Real Estate team for their sponsorship as well. For Brian Murphy and Eric Lopez, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thanks for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.